I have another video is recording. So what I'm going to do is slip around here. Well, this is recording very gently. I just wanted you to see what the telescopes, the size of these telescopes was like in comparison to a person. I'm about 5'7" tall. Now you can see me in the photo, or in the image right here. Pardon me. This is my C5. I'm 70 years old. I'm about 5'7" tall. And you can see the size of this telescope and the weight. I'll lift it up again to show you how heavy it is. See, I can lift it up pretty easily. It weighs about 12 pounds without eyepiece in it, maybe just slightly less. Actually, with those extra eyepieces in this little bag right here, the whole telescope weighs approximately 12 pounds from top to bottom, the whole thing including the tripod. Okay, which is not that bad, but I find this is kind of unbalanced at the top, and it's a little difficult for me to carry it with one hand. It kind of swivels around at the top, and I have to really be careful what I'm doing when I'm carrying it up the steps, especially in the dark at night or when I'm tired. This one is a little different. I'll show you this one. This is all clamped together. This weighs 7 pounds right here. You can see how much easier this is to carry around. It's still a little bit unbalanced with the tube off to the side. But what I'm going to do, when I carry it in, I do this with that one too. The tripod folds right up like that. Fold it up like that, and nothing protrudes out sideways too far. And it's not very long. So what I can do is easily carry this thing in and out of the house with one hand, just like that. So you can open the door with the left hand, hold this in the right hand. It only weighs about 7 pounds, and carry it in and out just like that. It's really a piece of cake. And I'll show you how this unclamps right now. And clamp that. And I'll show you, whoops, see it's a little bit top heavy when it's like, back heavy when it's like that. Something just swiveled there, which is very disconcerting. I just saw something swivel a bit, so I'm not sure what that was, but I'll have to figure that out later. I don't think this is clamped tight enough. There, yeah. That little thing, sideways plate, was not clamped very tight, that's all. That was just fine. So you can see that this actually, I'll spread these out a little bit, just like that. And you can see that this it doesn't show, but you can, I'll see how small a motion I can get. You can see that moves up and down in very small increments if you want it to be. So I don't know whether you've seen, but it's actually moving up and down very slowly. This is a really good tripod right there. It costs $40, and it just wiggles a bit, as you can see. It's not too bad, but it wouldn't be too good to use it on a windy night. But for me, my purposes, it's nice not to have it too heavy to carry around. Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good, thanks. Beautiful weather today.
Can't complain today.
Don't mind me, I'm just making a video on my telescope.
No problem.
The way I do things, it's actually a comedy video. Okay, now I'll show you how this swivels out sideways, swivels around very. What I'm doing is undoing the horizontal clamp, so it's almost loose, pretty loose. I'll show you how nicely this shifts sideways. This is really a beautiful tripod. I'll show you this. See, you can, when you're following something across, when you're following a planet or the moon in the southern sky, the motion of the thing in the summertime is especially almost perfectly horizontal. So you can actually track an object as it goes across the sky without changing the altitude too often or too much, especially if the power is not high. And yet this is a very smooth azimuth motion, as you can see. It just shifts very, very small amounts like that in azimuth. I don't know what you can see, but I'm moving it about 1/2 degree at a time or less. It's really remarkably smooth for such an inexpensive tripod. Just a little bit, wiggles a bit, but in actual practice, I think I would rather have it wiggle a bit than have to carry a heavy telescope in when I'm finished viewing with it. And on a night without much wind, which occurs fairly often, or a very light breeze, or an intermittent breeze, it won't bother you too much if this vibrates a little bit like that. I noticed this one vibrates quite a bit in a breeze that's kind of moderate, but in a light breeze, this is pretty steady, surprisingly steady, this Celestron telescope in a light breeze with that lightweight mounting on it. But you can see how nice and smooth this moves around. It's really, really nice. So you can see a very, very smooth motion. Some of the tripods, the cheap ones, have jerky motions. They go like this. when you try and move it. But this one, as you can see, it's as smooth as butter, smooth as silk, just beautiful. And it's like that in altitude. So what I'm going to do is to tilt this back like this, clamp this so it won't swivel around, which I usually do when I'm trying to carry it. Then unfurl this like this. And that allows me to carry it in the house without it protruding out sideways, like it's a straight, narrow object to carry in and out. So it's a lot easier. Now, I would like to be able to do that with this telescope, but this thing is so top heavy, the way it is, that I can't really do it with that telescope. I have to swivel that thing around in one hand when I carry it out, because it's just too top heavy over on this side, like when I aim it straight up, to make it long and narrow, that it unbalances this thing so much I can't get a proper grip on it. So it's better to carry it horizontally pointed like that, and this one is probably going to be better vertically oriented like that. Make sure everything is all clamped together really nicely. That's the clamp. Actually, there's 5 different clamping mechanisms on this tripod. There's one here that does the altitude. If you want to raise this up and down with this central rod right in here, then you clamp it. That's one clamp. The second clamp is the azimuth clamp. And the third clamp is the altitude clamp. The fourth clamp is this clamp for clamping it. I'll show you how this works right now. I might as well. This allows you to tilt this plate like this, see? For cameras, you can use it to orient a camera when you're holding the camera on this. It's a beautiful device. See, it clamps like that. It's like that, so that won't shift. I had a little bit loose, and that's why that startled me a bit. And then, whoops, and then the fifth clamp is one right here, and that clamps a 1/4-20 bolt right built into the tripod, right into this. There's a little, see that little hole there? That is actually for a larger tripod thread. So it's got 2 different methods, 2 different thread sizes. And there's another hole like this one down there that goes right into. I can give you a close-up of that before the video ends. Whoops! As you can see, I should have spread these. That almost fell over on me. I'll spread these out a little farther, like so. I tend to get a little careless once in a while because I'm 70 years old. So I have a good excuse for that, my age. Now I'm going to shift around and crunch up toward the camera. I'm just going to grab this camera. I've just got it sitting on the stool on top of a crude cardboard box. I'm going to take this and just show you how that telescope clamps onto the tripod. It's really pretty neat. Okay, I can kind of zoom in on it a little bit. There it goes. See, that's the knob right there. You turn, and you can see that goes right into the telescope tube through a bolt right there. And you see there's a hole right there that's very similar to that one right there, right on the plate, and that has threads for a larger tripod bolt. The tripods come in different size, like with different size bolts. So you can actually clamp that on, I think that must be a 3/8 inch bolt right there, but I'm not sure. But it's got 2 different methods of clamping that onto the camera tripod, so it's really pretty good that way. So there's all the there's the bubble right there. It's a little easier to see right now that I've got it out in the open. I'm just going to put this hand strap right here on. There's a little bubble adjustment right there. That's for leveling off the tripod. I don't know if you can see the little bubble in there. The bubble, oh yeah, just for fun, I'll see. The bubble is just a little bit off center now. I'm going to hold this camera really steady and see if you can notice that. And what I'm going to do is just shift this tripod around a little bit and show you that the bubble moves. It's really pretty neat. Get a grip on it down here. You should be able to see that bubble shift around right now. There it goes. See, the bubble is dead center right now, or close to it. Now you'll see the bubble shift over toward the bottom of the camera's field as I lower this. See the bubble shifting right there? That's really neat, eh? It's got its own built-in bubble level. I'm forever blowing bubbles. Actually, that's the first time I've ever sung on a YouTube video, and it'll probably be the last with the kind of singing voice I have. So anyway, you can see that bubble is definitely off center in that little location right there. So there's the other clamps. You can see a closer view of the clamps right there. That's a really close view of that clamp. That's sort of startling, isn't it? And that's the clamp that holds it in azimuth. And that clamp right down there you see right down in that gap right there if I can get it. I don't know whether that's going to, there's the clamp right there. I'll get it over in this direction. That's the clamp that does the central rod that you can lower and raise the whole thing with. I don't know whether I should try and show you that or not. I don't think I will, hand holding the camera. But those are all the clamps involved. That clamps the thing on. There's 5 different clamps, as I mentioned. So there they go. That's the azimuth clamp. So anyway, that's about it. I don't know whether there's much more I can say or not, or much more that I should say, because I probably said enough. But I think I'll give you, I know what I'll do. While I've got this running, I'll give you a view of the logo on this thing right here, if I can get it into focus. SW 9mm, TMB optical. I think that right now they make newer versions of these eyepieces with greater eye relief. You can have your eye back a little farther from them, but they cost a little bit more money. I just bought that on eBay, and I bought the 4mm one from eShow Online, but there's other companies that sell them. Here's the Celestron back right there. I'll show you what that says on it. And the Orion dielectric 2.5-inch mirror diagonal right there. You can read that. I think I'll try and hold this as steady as I can. But and then you can see the 2 clamping screws. One is here, and one is here, to hold this diagonal in place. And then the eyepiece is held in place by a clamp that's right over here. That holds the eyepiece in place and keeps it from falling out and stuff like that. So, but anyway, there's the 9mm logo on the thing, 9mm labeling on it. You see that it has a nice, it's a fairly short focal length eyepiece, but it has a really beautiful large lens in it. I think the eye relief is rated as, and there's the focusing control for the telescope again, right here. Right there. You just twist that knob back and forth like this to focus it, just like that. Okay, and this is the 9mm TMB planetary eyepiece, which is very similar to the Orion edge-on planetary eyepieces, which are very good too. They're very nice. You can see how the finder works. It's got a rather small lens on it, but it works very well. A 6x30 Orion finder scope. I'll see if I can center that right there. I think you can actually read it right on the eyepiece. That's the eyepiece that came with it right there. I'll show you the view through this thing. This is really an interesting, right through this set of rings right here, if I can do it. I'm just going to, just for fun, line up these rings. Like so you can see it, the eyepiece might be slightly in the way, but you can see how these rings work. Now they're apart, and you get your eye right in this location right here. Center the rings like that. Just like that. Center them as best you can, and then when you put a star or the moon or a planet right in the center of those rings, the telescope is almost perfectly aimed. The main telescope itself is almost perfectly aimed at the star or planet that's in the center of those rings. The way I got those rings so well centered is that I glued them in place with the telescope aimed at the top of a neighbor's tree or something like that. I forget what it was. And as you noticed, that the telescope dew shield was not very well aimed in the first place. So while I was actually doing the job, I put an extra piece of wood, sort of like a wedge, right under the tip of that. And that aimed the device upward enough while the glue was drying that it aimed these rings precisely. Actually, I could have adjusted it by lowering or raising these things right here because they're threaded, but I didn't want to bother with that. They're in there really sturdily, so I thought I'd leave them there and raise it up and down by just shifting that wooden wedge right under the, this is just cardboard and wood. So ordinary Lee Page's wood glue did the job with the whole thing. And this end, you could see the puddle of glue that was formed there. And of course, sideways, all you had to do is shift this board sideways, twist it around a little bit, like in small amounts, to get it lined up sideways, and the vertical motion to line it up was made by using this wooden wedge. So the thing is lined up very accurately with the main telescope and also with the finder scope. It makes it remarkably easy to aim. And one nice thing about, I'll cut it off, I'll mention that